Hello, everyone. Wait for people to get on here. You can see that I am outside right now. We are having beautiful sunshine right now. So I thought, why not do my live outside? Let me know if you can hear me. And Nellie says, so happy to hear this. Thank you. You can tell by my thumbnail and my title, I am officially now cancer-free. So exciting. I had my follow-up appointment on, let's see, what's today? Saturday, Thursday. I had my follow-up on Thursday, and I did have to go in physically into the building again and had to do the full garb again with my mask. And I didn't wear gloves this time, but I just didn't touch anything. And I did the elevator with my elbow and things like that. Yeah. And then I went in and I saw the surgeon, and he had the pathology report in his hand, and he said, good news, your nodes were completely clear. And I was like, oh my God, thank God. So it is such a relief. We are all so happy. So what that means is when they did my mastectomy, they removed all the breast tissue, but they also took a biopsy of the sentinel node. It's called a sentinel node biopsy. And the sentinel node, or the sentinel nodes, are the two or four? I guess there are four, because they took 4 nodes. Lymph nodes that are the first nodes that drain out of the breast tissue. So they look at those to see if there are any cancer cells in them, and that can kind of determine whether the cancer has spread outside of the local breast tissue or not. So that means, Anna says, so happy for you. Thank you so much. We are just thrilled. We are so excited that this was such a short, crazy, intense, but short journey. Yeah, so if there are cancer cells in the sentinel lymph nodes, that means that the cancer has migrated. That's like the little path that the cancer cells take to migrate elsewhere in your body if they're going to. And they were completely clear. So that was the one thing that we were praying for. And so thank you guys so much for everything. We are just, oh, God is good. God is good. We are just so happy. So then that begs the question, do I need to do chemo and radiation? And the answer is most likely a resounding no. So that is another amazing thing. Because it appears that the cancer did not spread anywhere, that means that there's no cancer left. So that means that by doing the mastectomy, they removed all the cancer. So that means that my body is now officially cancer free. So that is fantastic. So that since there's no cancer in my body, there's nothing to radiate, and there's no need for chemo. That would have been the question had they found cancer cells in the sentinel nodes, but negative and completely clear. So that is fantastic news. That was the other thing that we were praying for, especially like radiation would have been manageable. Prayers answered. So happy for you. Thank you. We are just so grateful for all your guys' prayers. We're just so blessed, and we're just doing happy dance over here. So what was I saying? I'm like losing my train of thought already. So there's nothing since there's no cancer cells in my body anymore, there's nothing to radiate. And there's no need to do chemo because there's no cancer cells in my body. And I might have had there been cancer cells in the nodes. They were completely clear. Oh, so relieved. So Yes, let's celebrate. Let's definitely celebrate our Easter miracle. So, um, yeah, so that does mean now that the only thing that I have left to do is to take a drug called tamoxifen, which is the estrogen blocker that I was talking about. So I will be meeting with my oncologist on the 20th, and he will prescribe me that drug at that point. And he told us in our initial appointment, if my nodes came back clear, then there wouldn't be need to do radiation and chemo, and that just doing the estrogen blockers would be enough, just as a prevent. I mean, I was reading that there is this like very, very teeny tiny chance that even if your nodes are clear, some rogue cancer cells can like escape through the ducts and get to other parts of your body. It's really rare, but it can happen. But which is why they do chemo sometimes. But they also say with my kind of cancer being estrogen positive, estrogen blockers, that in and of itself is enough to starve basically any rogue cancer cells that may be somewhere in your body. So it has the same effect as doing chemo, but without all of the negative side effects of doing chemo. So yeah, and I will probably have to just take those pills for at least a decade, unless I end up getting hysterectomy, in which case I won't need to do that anymore. Um, so yeah, so that's the at this point, I will know for sure after I talk to my oncologist, but it's looking like that is all that I have to do now. So I'm like, I can manage that. I can handle that. So let's see. God is so good. Yes, God is so good. Oh, it says I took tamoxifen for several months and then decided on a double mastectomy because we found, oh, because you have the BRCA mutation. Yes. Um, if you have the BRCA gene, that's why they do the genetic testing. If you have breast cancer, they recommend that you do a double mastectomy plus a hysterectomy, because if you have that gene, you're like 80% more likely to have a recurrence of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So I'm so glad that you were able to do that and that you were able to catch that gene, because that means that you are now, that your risk is pretty much nothing. That's awesome. Um, so your cancer was estrogen, progesterone negative. I see. I see. So did you have to do chemo then as well? Yeah, so you had both surgeries. Okay, awesome. So I'm so glad to hear that you are a survivor as well. Go team breast cancer survivors. So yeah, so I had been growing out my hair because I really, really need a haircut, and I have for like several months now. But as you can see, it's like getting really long. And I had actually been, oh, no chemo, stage one, just radiation. Fantastic. That is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. It's the best possible outcome. Um, so yeah, I had been growing out my hair and I had been putting off cutting it because I was, I had in my mind, I was like, oh, there's the possibility I could do chemo and lose all my hair. And I saw that there is a service where they can make wigs out of your own hair, which I think is the most genius thing ever. It's like if you have to lose your hair, you might as well like your own hair. I think it's such a great idea. I saw there were some services to do that. Sorry, it's a bit breezy here today. So now I can cut my hair because that is not going to be necessary now. But I will be donating my hair. And that's actually something that I encourage you guys to do. If you have long hair, if you have hair that, grows out well, I've actually been donating my hair like every other year or so for like 15 years. And I used to donate to Locks of Love, but then I had a friend in our community whose daughter had cancer, and she said that, what's it called? Wigs for Kids. Wigs for Kids is a better one. Sorry, the sun is kind of shining in my eyes there. Um, and so, yeah, so I'm probably going to just donate all this since I don't need it. I might as well give it to another patient who does. So I'm going to do a celebratory haircut. And yeah, so that is the good news. And we are just beyond happy. We are celebrating um, not having to do chemo in the middle of a pandemic is just huge. It's huge. Like, that was something that was actually really causing me a lot of anxiety. I mean, we've already been self-isolating and doing all the precautions. Would have done something, we would have made it work, but um, it would have been really difficult right now to just be completely, shut out from the world completely, because you basically have very little immunity when you're on chemo at all. And with this coronavirus, man, that's kind of scary. So I just, I pray for all the people. Um, it's kind of a scary time. So I'm just so thankful that that's one less thing I have to worry about now. Like, I can go back to just worrying about normal things like the rest of the world. Like, I can go back to worrying about just the pandemic and not the pandemic and cancer. So yeah, it's I feel light. I feel light. This burden has been lifted, and uh, yeah, we're just so thankful for all your guys' prayers and your love. And it really, I know I keep saying it, but it really has just been palpable. I can just feel it, and I really think that that has, um, really strengthened my faith and brought me closer to God and has made me a stronger person. So thank you so much to you guys. So yeah, that's where we are at. Trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. Oh, I am still editing my vlog that I made when I was in the hospital, and I have still been in recovery mode. So I have not been getting to it as quickly as I'd like, but I am working on that. So I will get that out to you guys. Hopefully that will be the next video that I put out. And do you guys have any other questions? Oh, Patricia's asking, did you have to do a double mastectomy? No, I did a single mastectomy because it was only in the left side. And they said, I said, should I just get a double mastectomy to just make sure that it reduces all the risk? And they actually said there's no actual need to do that because if there are no cancer cells in the other side and we put you on the estrogen blockers, that will basically just reduce your risk back to like, lower than normal of it even recurring in the other side. So it would have just been like extra surgery that I really didn't need. So I just did the single mastectomy. And I'm also really glad, I think I said this in the last video, because I really can't use this arm very much right now. I'm not supposed to lift it past, like this far. And so we have a lot of help from family right now, which I'm so thankful for, but still, like, not being able to use both arms and having 3 kids, that would have been a challenge. So I'm still so grateful that I can use this arm normally. So, I've also had a couple of people ask about reconstruction. Um, I'm pretty sure right now that breast reconstruction is considered to be an elective surgery. I mean, it's not necessarily considered to be essential for, it's not to survive, but insurance covers it and everything. But it's considered to be an elective surgery. And right now, like I said, I was lucky just to get my mastectomy at all, to begin with. So I'm probably going to be looking out 6 months, a year before I can consider my reconstruction. But it is something that I will be doing. And in the meantime, I have read that I will probably be going back to the can stick in your bra. And so I will probably just do that until it is safe for me to do reconstruction again. Oh yeah, physical therapy about my range of motion. Yes, they actually did tell me that. And I'm not quite sure right now actually how that's going to work with everyone in quarantine. Um, hold on, I'm going to change my angle here just because the sun is really bright here. Just a second. A little bit. That's better. But the place that I usually go to physical therapy, I'm probably going to call them and have my blanket. It's a little chilly out here. I am probably going to call them and see if they're doing virtual appointments right now because I know that's how a lot of medical places are doing it right now is virtually, and they can probably walk me through doing some physical therapy because yes, getting my normal arm range of motion. Um, so yeah, if they cover mastectomy, they have to cover reconstruction. It's in the law. So yes, they will be covering my reconstruction. And I will probably be vlogging once the time comes for that. I'm sure that I will be talking about that on my channel as well. So while I am officially cancer free, my journey is not over. I still have to, take all of my estrogen blockers and I still have to go through reconstruction. And I probably will be getting a hysterectomy within the next year. Um, so my journey is not done, but the worst part is done. I am cancer free, and that is the best part, the most important part. So let's see. There are some exercises that you can do yourself when your doctor clears you. Okay, yeah. And I was thinking they probably have this stuff on YouTube as well. YouTube has everything, right? So I can probably look up physical therapy exercises for post mastectomy. Sonia says, so happy for you and your family. Thank you, Sonia. And what is DIEP? I'm not sure what that is. My daughter had expanders. I'm not sure what that is. It says, praise God, I'm so happy for you and your family. Thank you so much, Rose. We are celebrating big time. We are just so thrilled. So I was going to talk about also just a little bit with the emotional side. My overwhelming emotion has just been relief, obviously, and joy. What I wasn't expecting was the other day. Oh, hey, Rachel. Praising God for his healing. Us too, Rachel. Us too. We are just thanking God so much for this blessing. So they use your stomach fat. Yes. Oh, yes. That's actually probably the reconstruction I'm going to do, is where they actually basically give you a tummy tuck. They use the belly fat to reconstruct a new breast. So I'm like, hey, if insurance is going to pay for a tummy tuck after 3 kids, why not? That is my plan. So anyway, so I was talking about just post cancer emotions. What I was not expecting was that I'm feeling a little better about it today, but just like a couple days after my pathology report, I was feeling, or I guess this was yesterday, I was feeling that way, just kind of like survivor's guilt. I was not expecting that. Like, I know some people in my life, and just I know there are a bunch of people out there whose stories I've read that they've had such a more difficult journey than I have. Even like younger people like me who have gone through this cancer journey, and they've had to do like rounds and rounds and rounds of chemo, with kids, and their immune systems, being compromised with kids. And I know it's not, I don't need to feel that way, but it was just this like unexpected emotion that I had, that like, oh, like, why did my journey need to be so easy? And my best friend was reminding me, like, Amanda, your journey was not easy, which is true. This has not been an easy journey, but it could also be doubly as hard. So, yeah, so I realize that I don't need to feel that, and everybody's journey is what it is, and everybody has different struggles and everything. Um, oh, you felt the same way as well, that you um, had friends that had to endure so much more. Exactly. I'm like, why? How am I getting this situation so easily? Like I said, not easily, but doing chemo especially could be so much harder. And so, um, just kind of processing that emotion. I'm allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling, just like I have all along. Um, but it's also just, making me um, just feel so much sympathy and empathy for the people who do have to go that extra difficult step, because that's really hard. And so, yeah, I am praying for all of my fellow breast cancer patients who are having to do that or who have had to do that. Um, so, yeah, that's just kind of that's been my emotions the last day or two. So, but other than that, it really has just been like overwhelming sense of relief. It was like such a heavy burden on my mind. It's like all of those thoughts that you don't necessarily want to tell everyone that you're having, but like you feel like you have to consider them. It's like before, especially before like what the pathology results are, and like before what you're dealing with, you're like, I have cancer, like am I going to die, like am I going to have to consider like what are my kids going to do, what is my husband going to do, and like all of those things that go through your head, but you don't really want to like talk to people about, especially people you're close to, because you don't want them to be worrying about that. um and so it's just all of those thoughts are like not there now. And it is that heavy stuff is lifted and I feel so much lighter. So I'm just so thankful and so grateful. And I made a on Instagram and Facebook. You probably saw my post about it. But this journey has absolutely changed my perspective. And like I really like I'm not taking anything for granted. Like I'm thankful for the mundane things. I am like even like my 2-year-old when he's having tantrums. I'm like, "Hey, I am here. I am able to mother my tantruming 2-year-old. I am here." um and just like all these just puts everything in your life in perspective. All the things that seemed annoying or inconvenient before, it's just like whatever, like you can handle this stuff, you can deal with this stuff, because you know what, I'm alive. And you know what, that's I am grateful to be alive, and that I don't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, and I think that it has also helped to, I mean, all of the difficult things that I've gone through in my life have, been refining experiences for sure. Um, like I really feel like sometimes life refines you by fire. And um it really is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it's so true. I feel like I have like more resiliency now, like just emotional resiliency, like mental resiliency, and like grit. Like I feel like it's like if I can endure this, I can endure anything. And there have been just a handful of times in my life. I was talking actually with my dad about this the other day. There have been a handful of times in my life um, when I felt like, I was at death's doorstep. There's one time in my early 20s, I was going through a life crisis at the time, and I got the worst flu I had ever had. And I was so weak. I was so dehydrated. I was living with my parents at the time, and like they were actually getting pretty concerned, and they had to actually take me into the doctor to get IV fluids and stuff, because I was in a pretty grim place at that point. And I remember that feeling of like, okay, like I got to pull this together. I gotta live. And just that sense of will, I'm going to overcome this. There really is a sense of will and grit involved in that. Um, Sorry, there's a bug on my screen. Um, the other time that I experienced that even more so was when I was giving birth to Alex. I had a 35-hour unmedicated home birth with Alex, and there were some complications we weren't aware of as we were in it. And he had a giant head. We'll just put it that way. And he was stuck basically. And it was the most, I also, there were some questionable things that my midwife did at the time. And she had told me that I could push when I still had a cervical lip. And doing that caused major inflammation and even way more pain than I was already in. And it was the most excruciating thing I had ever experienced in my life. My consciousness was only pain. And I was at home in the birth tub. And I remember just like staring at this point in the ceiling and just like thinking to myself, okay, Amanda, you have two choices. You can either die or you can push this baby out. And so I was like, okay, I have a lot to live for here. I can't die. I refuse to die. So I am going to push this baby out. And so you dig deep and you like you you realize how strong you are because you have no other choice. I've had a number of friends who have gone through, actually had one of my cancer patient friends say the same thing the other day. You don't realize how strong you are until you have to be. And you dig real deep and you find strength in there that you did not know that was there. And there is a element of will in it and a element of grit. And you pull that out and you push forward. And so that was the other experience like that I had. And I ended up having a baby. And that was really kind of a refining point in my life as well that really like upped my sense of resiliency and grit and strength. And I've kind of that experience kind of have me in my thoughts a little bit just through this process that like, all right, I can either succumb to, the cancer, or I can do everything in my power to fight it. And that's what I've done and have conquered. So yeah, it's absolutely been a refining experience. Um, and while I would not have asked for it, I really am thankful for what it has given me. So yeah, so that's just me and all of my rambling thoughts for you guys. So yeah, trying to think if there's anything else. I think I've covered it all. Um, I guess I could make another video just in a couple weeks and just talk about how recovery is going. Overall, it's going pretty well. Um, I will probably be getting that taken out in the next week. And that will be a relief because that's just kind of irritating. Um, uh, you look lighter. Thank you. I feel lighter. My soul feels lighter right now. So, yeah, so recovery is going well. I'm just, like I said, trying not to use my arm. Pain is pretty much under control. I'm just taking Advil and Tylenol a couple times a day now, and it's pretty much under control. Um, no llama drama. Yay, it's good to be a survivor. Big congrats. You're in good company. Yes, same to you. Thank you. Yeah. So other than that, it'll probably be several months until I'm fully recovered. I'll have to do the physical therapy, and like right now, like the site, like it's actually a much bigger scar than I realized it was going to be. Like I'm not going to show you obviously, but it like basically goes from here all the way down back, and there was this huge long scar, and it's actually completely numb. I have like no sensation there right now, so it's weird. It's bizarre. um, so Yeah, don't worry about the drain removal. Take a breath. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad it doesn't hurt. That's good to know. Maybe I'll just take an Advil before I go to have that done. So yeah, that's where I'm at with recovery. And yeah, do you guys have any other questions before I sign off? Looks like that's about it. And I just, like I said before, I love doing these lives with you guys because I just love being able to have um, live conversation with you guys. It's fantastic. So yeah, so thank you guys for sharing in our joy and celebrating with us. We really appreciate it. You might be able to see Bill is back there in the garden. Once I am a little more recovered, I am actually going to make some garden. I feel like that's relevant with the current state of the world, that growing our own food right now is something that could be really useful for a lot of people. So anyway, that's what he's doing back there. And the kids are inside dyeing Easter eggs with grandma. So all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me on this live. And God bless and happiest Easter. Thank you. And happy Easter to all of you who celebrate Easter. Happy Passover to those of you who celebrate Passover. And we will see you in the next video. Take care, you guys. Bye.